Vice President of Student Affairs at Sana Campus. And I am here this morning to present this not because I have all the answers, but just to share and allow us the opportunity for each of us to share what it is that we can possibly do in our environment and to explore together what it is that we can do at each of our institutions. So if you have a question that I'm not able to answer, that's okay. It doesn't mean that that's the end of it. Please send the email to me. I'm happy to ask who might have the answer to it. Again, we are a community of learners. We are coming together and forming this so that we can learn and grow together. So, if you don't mind, if you can just introduce yourselves briefly, because I think that's very important, so we know who you are, the institution you represent, and your role in that institution. I think that would be helpful. So let me start from, since you are closest to me. Instructional design. Thank you. Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. Wonderful. Welcome. Take it all in. Ooh, thank you. We are glad financial aid is here. We need that. Great. Thank you, library. I'm going to come down back to both of you so you can introduce yourselves. Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. Ooh, okay, sponsored program. So, okay, so you're going to be doing the grants for them. Wonderful. 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 We need that too because that's how to do it, accreditation. That's very important. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. That's great. Thank you all for coming. Of course, you have an expectation here, right? I want to take something back, and I'm hoping that each of us can take something back, including me, that we can take something back to our colleges. And when I go through this presentation, I challenge you to think about how can I use that in my role. Just think about some of the things that we are thinking about. How can I use that in my role? How can I use my role to facilitate that or to empower, engage, or whatever? So, okay, our friends from Broward, you are here late, but you need to introduce yourselves and tell us the role you play. It's good to call on friends and just call them out, right, Craig? Okay, Craig. We're just saying our name and our role, our college, and you don't have to stand up, that's okay. No, that's okay. Thank you. Somebody else? Oh, yes, sir. I'm like, where did he go? He's hiding. But thank you. So there's one thing that all of us will learn at some point. We are very comfortable because somebody said something last night. We are with our tribe, okay? You know, when we are here with our tribe. So when I call Craig out, he's like, yeah, it's you. Okay, it's okay. And Amy is like, oh yeah, I know. You know, kind of a deal. So let's feel free to really talk about, we are not talking about what our institutions is not doing. Let's talk about what our institutions can do. So we are looking at it from a positive spin rather than a negative spin, because when we think about, oh, our mission doesn't include, okay, then it seems as if we are kind of getting resolved into, well, I can't do anything about that. Rather than, currently, we don't have that, but we are revising our mission in 5 years, so we might be looking into that, or how can we infuse something. So I just want us to look at a positive spin, and many of you have done it before, so it's not really, it's not anything new to you. So again, feel free to stop me at any point so that we can have an engagement and have a conversation. So instead of saying, these are good practices that people are doing, I decided to just say, here are some promising strategies. And it doesn't mean that it's all inclusive. That's why I said it's some. So when we, each of us, when we are looking at things to weave any type of concept, ideas that maybe is not there before, we want to weave it into the culture or the fabric of our institutions. We always want to look at, okay, where do we anchor this? Where does it really fit? Okay, so when we look at things, we want to look at the college or university mission. What does it really say? Does it have the language that we are using? There are times that we just have to really look at what the intent might be, but not what is written. Okay, and then we can try to really explore with others. Does this include this? Or if we do this, can we get here? Kind of a deal. So that's one, and we're going to be looking at some of those. The second one is to anchor the program within the mission. So there's something about when you explore something, then you see whether or not it's there. Then you can see where you can anchor it. And then we want to identify and use allies. These are great things. I'm always impressed and really encouraged when I see the disability or accessibility offices come to this type of meeting. I remember when these conversations started, before the FCTP, we had a meeting in Orlando, and several of us were sitting down. Only few of us from universities and colleges were invited. I worked at University of Florida State University at that point. And one of my colleagues got up and said, those students do not belong in our colleges and universities. They will water down our programs. I almost wept. I almost did, because people who have learning disability background and they've done disability testing, you realize that many of those tests are lopsided. They ask questions about, not about your intelligence, but about your experience and where you belong and who you belong to. So, and I happen to be one of those. I had a background in learning disability testing. I've tested students before. And you know, they are very smart, but the way they demonstrate their ability is different from the way the academics will demonstrate their ability. So it was very hurtful when I heard that. And the conversation continued, and I think they excluded the universities and colleges for a little while because we were the roadblock. Okay? But then, a few years later, something started again. So I'm glad at where we are right now. So when I see people who work in disability services, who provide access services for students, engage in this type of thing, I think that's the greatest ally that this program actually can have. Then we look at be intentional in the use and in the use of your planning tool to develop your strategy. You know, I mean, all of us who finish from here, and we're going to be going into our teams and planning and looking at how we use the tool to plan. Let's make sure that we use those very strategically. And the next slide will tell us about how do you use that? Where do you start from? Are you going to start from student learning outcomes, or do you have to go that dimension or whatever? It just depends on where you are at your institution. Then model what you want to see. Okay. Disability services, that's my background, by the way. We are used to just kind of doing our own thing by ourselves, and we say, these are my students. Even though they don't contribute anything to me, they don't give me their paychecks, they don't pay my salaries, they don't do anything. But we say, this is my student. But they are not my students. They pay the institution. They are students of the institution. The silos, let's move away from there. It's going to be hard, but we have to be willing to do the work. And one thing that is really encouraging is the fact that people who do this work, there are people who don't mind doing the hard work. They don't mind getting no's. They just find a way to get yes, you know, in different ways. So we just need to continue to do that. And when I say nip at it, so let me say, I'm not an American. You probably can tell because you are hearing me with an accent. So with that, there are certain terminologies that I'm always careful of using. But I checked this, and my colleague said, yes, you can use that. So it's like you bite a little bit. Did I use that correctly? Thank you. Okay. I'm always very careful because I don't want to use something wrong. So you bite at something a little bit at a time. And then you just want to be sure that you continue to do things. And when you are modeling what you want to see, volunteer to do things. You know, put yourself out there to do things. So I'm sure you have many others that you can contribute to this, but we're going to be talking more about it later. So talking about the strategic, the taxonomy that we talk about. Again, when you are looking at where do we start, how do you weave this program into the fabric of your institution? One, you have to really look at where you want to begin from. Do you want to look at the student focus? Is that the area? Do you want to look at the faculty and staff? Do you want to look at the program and institution, or the concept and systems? And I know that Craig is going to be talking a lot more about that this afternoon, so I'm not going to be going into that so we don't repeat ourselves. But it's always important to really look at where do we begin from, where will be the best place for us to anchor whatever it is that we want to do. So, and I'm going to be using Santa Fe College as an example because that's the one I know. Okay. Not because they do it best. Okay, I know they do it well, but not that they do it best. So, looking at the first one which we talked about, which is anchoring the name of your program. I cannot take credit for this. Linda Musillo was the one that came up with the name, you know, and it's Saint. Everybody want to be a saint, Santa Fe Saint, at Santa Fe College. Because Santa Fe Saint means that you are a product, you are proud to be. So, when a student in the FPCTP says, I am a saint, they are saying the same thing that any other student is saying, right? So again, you look at it and say, how do you kind of include the different things in there? So, and she said the saint, the project saint, student access and inclusion together. Okay. And that's just the name. So everybody want to be, the saint is the mascot for the college, the athletics department, where you go there, they see the saint when you go everywhere. So look at you don't have to use the name, that name of the athletics or anything on your college campus, but you just want to look at something that your campus think that is very important to them. So let's think about the name and what it means so that we can. Do we have examples of some names of programs and how you've been able to anchor that into your program? Yes. Hire program, H-I-R-E. Wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. That's great. You see? So again, let's just think about something very creative. That's what we want. We want you to hire our students, and we are hire. Any other example? Wonderful. That's wonderful. So again, when a student goes out and say, I am Seahawk Nest, it's not something that is foreign, in the environment. Something that anyone in that environment will really see and kind of understand exactly what is going on. That kind of anchor them to the college. And one thing that they do, we all want to be seen. I always, it's one of the things that we say at our college. People who graduate, who achieve something, they always write their story here. Okay? And my goal today, because the employer that won the Employer of the Year is from Gainesville, is one of our students. So Sienna will probably be a saint. I've already sent the picture again, we take opportunity, seize the moment so that we can do things like that. Okay? Then, when we look at a college or university mission, the values and the goals, there are times that we don't have any say in that because it was already created before we actually surfaced, which is okay, but we can continue to really look at it and exploit. What does it say? How do they measure whatever, what type of data do they collect? How do they measure it? When will they measure it? When was the current mission or value goals developed so that we know when the next time will be? If it's not there now, then we plan for the next time and how we can really infuse or embed the mission, the goal of our program in there. What are the processes that they do? And again, that's why we really need to open our eyes and make ourselves available. We can be busy doing the work. But sometimes we need to kind of separate ourselves to engage so that we can let other people kind of work for us. Because when we volunteer in things and we are doing things and we ask questions, sometimes we kind of generate interest. And how can we get involved? So on Santa Fe campus, what we do whenever we go into this mission every 5 years, they send this thing to everybody on campus and say, okay, this is the time to really look at our mission again, to look at our values, to look at our things. Do you have any suggestions? And we had a wonderful provost now who will say, we're going to have a table talk. She calls it the table talk. And she will have all of those table talks at different times, and she invites anybody to come in. And she will have pieces of papers and everything. I don't know how this woman does it, but she's so remarkable. So she has all of these sticky yellow notes, and everybody will write the sticky notes, and then she'll have the different areas, and then you put it somewhere where you think it will be. And she goes and collects all of these things after maybe 2 or 3 months, and then she presents it back to us. When she presents it to us, she's giving us also the opportunity to review it and say, wait a minute, my interest wasn't there, because I did this past year. I'm like, wait a minute, Lisa. I said, I want inclusion. Inclusion isn't mentioned in there. And she's like, yes, it's mentioned. I'm like, no, that's not obvious to me because it seems kind of hidden. If we truly believe in it, this is really, so she listens. And then, she took it back to the team working on it, and they thought about it, and then they called me on the phone and said, do you want to attend this meeting? we're thinking about this. How, if we put it here, do you think it will be more obvious? And what I said was, what is important to us, we measure. What we write, we measure, and we are accountable for. If it's not written, we're not going to measure it. And I said, that's my problem. Inclusion is not there. We're not going to measure it. I don't want to assume what somebody's thinking or whatever, and then they said, okay, we're going to put it in there. Okay, so again, we just have to, in ways that is embracing, in ways that is encouraging, in ways that, is good, that others can really hear us. And again, getting involved is great, but I don't think we need to overstretch ourselves that we are involved in everything and people don't know what we stand for. So when you go into a meeting, you want people to know, oh, if we're talking about this, I know this person is going to say something about, because people assume what you represent by looking at you. And I was working at a university, not here in Florida, it was another state. And we wrote a grant to the family parent organization, and we were supposed to make presentations. And my presentation was in the afternoon around 1 or so, and it was on a Saturday. Okay? I'm a 7-day Adventist, so I went to church. So I went to that presentation from my church, and when I was going, I was dressed in my African garb. So I went there, and the lady got up and said, oh, we see the person from the International Student Services coming to present. Okay, so, I didn't correct her, so I got up and I said, yeah, that's true, I am international. But you know what? Disability doesn't discriminate. You can be from any country. By the way, I am international and I'm representing people with disabilities in this state. Many of them are farmers. They might be international students, international people. So I spin the whole thing. So when people see you, they assume what it is you represent. So it's left to you when you speak up about certain things and they will know when they are talking about that, and you are there, they know what it is that you represent. And some of my colleagues probably have heard me say it before. I tell people, I don't do many things. I'm like Kentucky Fried Chicken. I do disabilities and I do it right. I don't do anything else. Okay, so when you are talking about disability and access, then you know that's really what you do. So again, just to make sure that we have a voice and that we can give the voice that we have about other things, let's give it to the person that has, probably the highest voice or the microphone at the point. But again, let's use our influence. Any questions or suggestions? Okay, so again, going back to Santa Fe, so when we were looking at this program, I looked at Santa Fe's mission, and it says, if everything adds value to the lives of our students and enriches our community. Okay, this is where we anchor. Okay, lives of our students. All students, it doesn't say white student, black student, Navy student, or whatever. It doesn't say student with, whatever students who are going to UF alone or students who are going, it just says students. Okay? And enrich the life, enrich our community. So when we talk about our community, who is our community? So we can really define the community. The community involves students with disabilities, students with unique abilities, student with, or the community, it includes the school district. So again, you kind of look at it in ways that you can package what it is. Because what you want is not that you are forcing things to fit within the fabric of your institution. It's you are holding your institutions accountable for what they say they're going to do. Okay? And if they are not doing this, then you can say, okay, how can we? And again, looking at this, one of the things that I encourage our programs to do is to ensure that when you are writing your report at the end of the year, when you are doing your evaluations, you go back to the mission. and say, we've done this and that enriches our community. We've done that and that has added value to the lives of. So when we hire students who are mentors for students with unique abilities, we are adding value to the lives of the students because now they know more. And when they get a job, they can work in a diverse environment. So these are things that we've said we're going to do. We are just helping the university and the college to actually know more. And I think I took, well, we're going to go to UCF because I just took UCF as another example. So when we look at the some of our values, we say we draw on our culture of diversity, inclusion, and equity to innovate and excel. So when we were doing the table talk and talking about the values and things, this was not spelled out. Okay, so when again, it's not because I know better. It's just because I'm asking people questions and I'm saying it's important. If it's important to us, let's look at ways of actually measuring. Then we put that in there. You know, looking at a culture of diversity, inclusion, and equity to innovate and excel. Because what they said is, oh, when we say we're going to innovate and excel, we are doing. No, it's not there. Okay, let's make sure we write it in there. Okay. And then, University of Central Florida, I look at this, it says, it's a public research university invested in unleashing the potential within every individual. That's the key, every individual. And I'll key on that one if I were here to say, well, students with unique ability is an individual, and we already promised to do it for every individual. We enrich the human experience through inclusion, discovery, innovation, and propelling broad-based prosperity for the many communities we serve. Again, community is there. It's very broad, yes it is. But when we look at each of our programs, what are we saying in our report as we submit our report at the end of the year? What are we saying when we set our goals for each of our employees, for our division, for our departments, for our units? What are we saying? How are we going to ensure that we can align what we have to what it is that the university and the college says they want to do? Any feedback on this? You want to share some of maybe the mission of your college of value and how you've been able to use it or how you intend to use it? Thank you, Craig. Absolutely. Mhm. That's wonderful. Thank you. That's accountability, right? And a reminder. And then we tie it to the university. Anyone else? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Remember, many of these things are not, in disability services we call it, what do we call it? It's like borrow and expand or make better. So it's like, I mean, you say, how do you? And people are like, oh, this is how we do it. You get like hundreds of things on how we do things, and then you take it and then you make it better and you send it back and somebody else use it. And so I think we can better ourselves. So I don't think anyone owns that. We may express it better, and if somebody expresses it better than I do, I'm happy to take whatever it is and see how it fits in. So that's important. Yes, Chris. Thank you. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because what all of us are here for is a culture change. There's no way we can do what it is that we want to do without changing the culture. And deeper. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the next one, to identify your allies. The first thing I said, find a champion. Who, where, well, how, and for what. Okay, so there are times that we don't have the voice to be at the table where the conversations will be going on, but we need to seek for people who might be at that table. Align ourselves with them and educate them and kind of help them understand. So there are different allies in different places. So I was working in disability services one time, and the provost of the college, the daughter had an accident. And when the daughter experienced accident, everything was going well. Was, I don't know, one of the Ivy League university was where she was. Things changed for her. And she wanted to go back to school. But the father wanted her to start where he is so that she can be home, they can help. So when the student started, the student went to class, and I don't remember what it was that they were saying, and they said, oh, are you registered with the disability office? Because the student just shared something, and he's like, I don't know what that is. And this is the provost of the university, and he had no idea that the office existed. It's not unusual. So the student was introduced, the student came to my office, we met, we talked about things. I don't even know that she was the daughter. Also, I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Let me see what's going on. We look at the medication, look at the impact of the medication on the early classes and all of the things. So we looked at the whole thing. And the student was so happy. The student went home and told the dad. The dad called me in the office and said, tell me exactly what you do. So we talked about things. He became an ally on the campus. So there are different times or different ways that you can get allies, and however way we get it, let's take advantage of it. But it's important for us to start with the disability or accessibility office. Those are our best allies, because the offices exist to provide access, to ensure inclusion of all abilities. There are times that we have people, and we have a colleague here who is the equity and diversity officer. That's an ally. We go to them. How do you define diversity? What does it include? What is it excluding right now? And how can we include it? And so on, because we are aligned together. You want to understand your general student body demographics, because that is very important. So student life, you want to see exactly what it is that they are doing and how inclusive their programs are. They are allies. They work with you. And of course, I'm not saying this because this is easy work. This is a difficult work. But somebody has to do it, right? So let's do it. Engage with or educate student government. Okay? Working with student government is the best thing ever, because once they are educated, they can help their peers understand exactly what's going on. You want to look for allies in all places, likely and unlikely places. Sometimes your allies are somebody that you meet at the grocery store, that maybe they sit on the board of trustees, that, you just meet and you just kind of talk and you tell them exactly what you are doing. They become your ally. They try to share your story. You want to share your news in an inclusive way. So when you have newsletters, the activities that you do or whatever, share it with the general student population rather than only just your newsletter that only goes with. I'm not saying don't create one that only goes with you, but share it with the general student body. Then the SUA, never forget, as well as, don't forget them. as well as your colleagues. So your colleagues can help share the stories, they can help you share the news, they can encourage you. This work can be a lonely work at times, so your allies are people that you can call and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Am I thinking right? Am I being too, whatever. And they can help. And again, I know there are many other strategies. Thank you. That's correct. Thank you. And especially when you have student government leaders, they have different positions. Your student can serve on the student government because they represent a different voice. And they get there and they become part of, and they are colleagues just like anyone else. So, it's a wonderful, wonderful way of engaging. Thank you. And when you are looking for ally, don't forget to be an ally yourself because that's important. You want to engage on campus committees, you want to do services to the college, you want to advocate for access and inclusion in general, not only for the small group of students that we serve, but for everyone else. You want to seek ways to show the value of your program, college or university wide. Today, the employer of the year is somebody who worked with a student at Southern Bay College. I took a picture, I did everything, I've already written to my president, and I said, hey, Dr. Brody, see, I saw your picture kind of rolling around, and that was so great. And by the way, we won this, and Linda did this, and this is the student, and whatever. And then I copied the vice president for communications and everyone else. This is going to be in the news. I know that. But again, taking advantage of the little things that we see and people. So you are here with your team, take a picture with your team. Send it to somebody and say, we were in Orlando, trying to explore these or trying to see how we can make things better and whatever. And then you can put a link to your program so that people will learn more about it. So again, being an ally is not easy, but it's something that we must do. And remember, you don't have to do it yourself. You can encourage your team members, to do things. Volunteer your team members to be on committees. They are selecting textbook about things. I'm like, oh, Dana, you're in disability services. I need you to serve on that so that you can really look at how things are and things like that. So, again, it's always good. So, you look at the unmet needs and the unmet passion of your college or university, and then you make sure that you match it. So again, engaging in your community, you want to engage with the school district, the agencies, parents, employers, and so on, because you want to understand what are the unmet needs. When you go to parent meetings and when you do, these are people in your own community. These are the same people that are speaking to the board of trustees, that are speaking to your president, that are speaking to the faculty, the members of, your faculty parents or whatever. Again, look at what is it that they are saying is the unmet need that we know we can meet. Then we want to match the passion and the unmet needs with college or university offerings. What is it that they are doing, and how can we match or mesh that to be sure? So when an employer says, well, we've been trying to hire helper for this and we can't get it, so how can we do it? Then you go and say, how can we do that? You go to the academic area, they look at things and can we create a certificate in here? Because, kind of match people together so they can talk. They understand exactly the unmet need. They know that we can meet it. And then that's how we create the certificates for our own programs. You want to engage faculty and staff to review course syllabi, because many of our students will be taking many of these classes. And again, we look at it and say, what is it that they can do? What is it that they cannot do? And how do we do it? There are times that we have our students actually go through multiple semesters to finish a course because we know they cannot finish that course in one semester. So they look at it, they break it down, so they finish, and then they do the second part, and then they finish. So working with faculty to ensure that that is done is important. educate campus community, participate in professional development, trainings and offerings. Put yourself out. I would like to do a presentation on, inclusive thing. And then you bring it in and then you do it. Sometimes you don't do it yourself. You might invite. So, you reach out to FCSUA and you say, can you do this training for us and things like that. Again, kind of bringing people together to understand what it is that you are doing. Then, again, using the planning tool, we talked about that. Be strategic and intentional in developing your planning tool. Are you looking at the program and institutional focused area, concept and system development? And again, I know Craig will be going over this, so I'm not going to go into this. But when you are looking into weaving this into the fabric of the institution, it's more than the student focused. It's more than the faculty and staff focused. It's at the program and institution level and the concept and system level. Because that's the higher level where you actually get that in. And it's important for us to really think strategically as we develop that. Then you want to be strategic in your communications. We know that communication is very important. It needs to be intentional, it needs to be timely, informative, focused, and inclusive. Okay. So we just had the award this morning, I sent it. Okay, I'm not waiting until I get home next week to send it because it's old news. Okay, I know that it's going to be on somebody's radar so that when I get back on Monday, they say, okay, Dee, let's talk about this. What was that again? Then I can say yes, but it's in the queue already. So, and when you look at timely communications of things, what is going on in the environment at that point? There was a conversation that I had with a group of colleagues here, and they're talking about, the admissions, do we need to include this in the admission process? And I said, while it may be okay for some programs, like the technical colleges, it might be a little challenging for us at the college system and at the university system. Because we have open enrollment, right? So because of the open enrollment nature of our things, students can come in and they just apply. Are you going to say, oh, you cannot get into the next program? No. It's open enrollment, right? Okay. But it's not open enrollment into that because it's a program-specific requirements. So we don't want to do things that may be counter to what our institution wants to do that may create a problem for us. Sometimes it's great to just fly under the radar. People don't know you exist, right? Just do your work. But when you raise something and then people start looking at you, then they start looking at things and they want to explore, oh, what are you really doing there? And things like that. So, and your communication needs to be focused and inclusive. So when we are talking about students with disabilities, let's not just say students with unique abilities alone. We kind of look at in general. We look at diversity in general. And then when we become inclusive in our communication, we are modeling what it is that we want people to do in their own communications as well. And again, I think I've said it, it's not an easy job. If it's easy, everyone would be doing it. It's not a quick job, so keep nipping at it. You are meant for this, so you can do this. Because again, it's not easy, and many of the things that you are trying to create, the culture that you are trying to create on your campus, you may be long gone before you realize exactly what's going on. But let's be willing to do it, because we are not doing it just for us, we are doing it for students who might be coming. Many of you have been in this field for so many years. I think we added the number of years. Yesterday or the day before? And over 200 years of people in the room who have the number of years that people have been working on this. And we are where we are today because of the efforts, the little steps, and the little accomplishments that we've gotten. So don't be discouraged. So anyway, any questions? Yes. investments. Mhm, mhm. Thank you. Someone has an answer for you.
Uh, so it is very different. We don't have a Department of Diversity and Inclusion. We don't have any of that. So what you all listed does not exist, is never going to exist. We don't have access to that. And at the tech college, I, as the admissions person, and I'll just use myself as an example because I don't want to speak for other people, but I wear so many hats, and I am the ally. And so a lot of what we do, uh, we're tiny. We're the redheaded stepchild of our district. Like we go to sign up for, I don't think you guys get it. We sign up for like professional development. There isn't even a spot for us. We have to sign up as like a high school because the college is this other, right? So, and so we have to make our own rules. So we've been growing. We're at, I think we're going to be servicing 12 or 13 students this year, post-COVID. But you got to, again, our population is about 500. So 12 to 15 students is a nice chunk for us. We're very excited. And we're doing something brand new this year. So I'll get back to you on how it's going. But we've started a brand new program. It's a 900-hour clock hour program. It is specialized career investigation. And so we're going to be working with students who, we've got kind of two tracks, I guess you'd say, for our students. Some who are perhaps higher functioning are going to be able to join a tech program off the bat, and they're going to be able to be woven into that program. The other thing that we have that you don't is that we're not allowed to change our curriculum in any way. Any student who joins a program has to do exactly the same program. The only thing we can play with a little bit is time, and we can't even do that too much because we get hit with Pell and financial aid. So because we are a clock hour program, everything is tied to time, so we can wiggle a bit. But and the other thing that we deal with is an EPA cert is an EPA cert, honey, and you're going to sit down and take the same EPA certification test as anybody else, and I can't change that, and I can't even accommodate that. If the EPA is not willing to accommodate that test, then I've got nothing. So a lot of it is support the student as best you can. A lot of it is a lot more individual attention, I think, than it is able to be given. A lot of it is the way that you counsel students. A lot of it is your gut. And, oh, sweetheart, I know that your uncle does HVAC, but you've never, like, you've been at first grade level in math. Do you know what I mean? Since this whole thing started. You can come. We're going to get you in. And the line that I always use with students is that I don't care about getting you in. Getting you in is easy. I need to get you out. So we're going to figure it out. And there's a lot of like tips and tricks that you use, and then you're strategic in your placement, not only for the student, but also for my teacher, because our teachers are not teachers. Our teachers are instructors. The reason he got the job is because he's welded for 20 years. Never taken an education class in his life. He's a welder. A lovely human who adores people and who wants everybody to be a great welder, but it doesn't have the skill set behind it. So it really is very, very different than a lot of what you're going to hear. So I will give you my card. But that's what it's all about, and we've had to find our way a lot, do you know what I mean, through it. So I didn't mean to jump in, but there it is.
No, thank you for jumping in because I don't have an answer. but I think there's something here, and I'm glad that we are recording this because I know the Senate will listen to this and hear the challenge for the technical colleges, because that's probably something we may need to have to create a track for technical colleges, and we can look at maybe how to help technical colleges to do this. So, yeah. I apologize that I was using colleges and universities. But no. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I think the best thing is for us to look at who does it well, what can we learn from them, what are the promising strategies that work, what are the promising practices that we can use, what are some of the tricks and I can say it, tips and tricks, tongue-tied, tips and tricks that we can use. I think those will be helpful. And I think there's something that I might suggest that you want to take from the disability service in general, what we've done in the past. We share things. Oh my goodness, yes. Nobody holds anything back. I mean, you try something and it works, it's like, yeah, I tried this and it worked. so maybe to create some type of network for technical colleges that they can share things that way. And they may, because even some of the things that we share about accessibility within the colleges and universities may not work in your environment. And I think also when you say the high schools will say it's not going to work, maybe they start from the school districts. How do you work with it?
The next 2 days will be invaluable to helping solve that. That's how Higher got what they got, is just using that plan and going forward with it. And you can do that. Your facilitator will guide you through some of those kinds of things. And one of your tasks could be to align with some of the folks all across the state who are in similar situations to you, and that's where the center focuses and helps you make that alignment. So there's hope. Go, go, go.
Thank you. There's hope. Yes, go, go, go.
We talk about listening to what other people have to say and hearing what they're doing, and but when you go and visit their site, you can see and compare and contrast what you can steal from them and what you're going to just leave there. But we went to, I think, 2 different site visits in our first year before we actually had students in our program, so that we knew what we would and wouldn't want to do and what would and wouldn't work based on what we heard at these types of planning sessions. It just made it easier to go and see it in person.
Thank you. I think that's great. And you also, when you are developing your budgets, you have the ability to put travel and professional development as part of that. So the professional development you get may not be just here. There may be somebody in Ohio that is doing something great that you may want to go see. They may be putting something together. That's a possible professional development that you can put in to see. Again, you just take and see what works and what doesn't work. Any other? We have 3 more minutes. So no questions? Okay. So that's my contact information. And this handout is actually on I already put it up. So feel free to take it. And again, if you have any questions, the reason why we all are here during this time is to ensure that we can share ourselves as resources and we can gather resources from other people so that we enrich ourselves. We are not doing this for us. We are doing it for the benefit of our students. And the better we become, the better our students become and the better our states become. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time.